Keeper is a mobile wallet that allows you to use hot, cold, single sig, and multi-sig self-sovereign setups. But it's also great when it comes to the realm of assisted multi-sig vaults and inheritance planning. Today, we're going to take a look at Keeper and how to set up your own Diamond Hands inheritance plan. I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.
BitcoinWell is one of the best places to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with the advent of BitcoinWell Infinite, high net worth individuals can enjoy an OTC desk with white glove experience tailored to transactions of $50,000 or more. This helps high net worth individuals, family offices, businesses, and trusts secure the best prices and execute large transactions with speed and efficiency. You can expect personalized service, rapid fulfillment, no slippage, custom trade structures, risk management guidance, and global buy and sell capabilities. And hey, if you're not a high net worth individual, not to worry, you can still benefit. If you sign up and you refer people through your personalized link, any fees paid on their first purchases will earn you 21% of those fees. So you can check them out today. There's a link down below to sign up, or you can simply scan the QR code on the screen. BitcoinWell, check them out today. CoinKite.com has some of the best hardware on the market today to secure your Bitcoin. The Cold Card Q is an absolute powerhouse and is my daily driver. And on top of this, they have plenty of other goodies, including the Mark IV, the Tapsigner, Open Dimes, the Block Clock, and much more. If you head over to their website, make sure you use code BTC Sessions at checkout to get a nice discount. Links are in the show notes down below. So let's start prerequisites. What are you going to need to know in order to successfully navigate this tutorial? Well, we are going to be, of course, using the Keeper app, which is available on mobile for both iOS and Android. Now, I am on Android, but of course, a lot of this stuff is going to be very, very similar, if not exactly the same, across platforms. Besides that, we're also going to be utilizing hardware with this setup. Now, I want to keep this as streamlined as possible so that we can focus on the features of the Keeper Diamond Hands multi-sig and inheritance setup rather than focusing on the hardware, but there is support for a wide array of hardware. Today, I'm going to be simply using Tapsigners from CoinKite for this setup, just so you can kind of see a uniform basic setup with the same type of hardware. It also lends itself really well to mobile. Being able to just tap with NFC makes it a little bit simpler. However, I will touch a little bit on other hardware support that they have and how you can also interface with non-mobile friendly hardware using their desktop app later on. Outside of that, knowing some basics about sending and receiving Bitcoin transactions is, of course, key. And if you have not seen my previous Keeper video for mobile, that one will outline all of the basics in and around sending and receiving and setting up keys and all of that. So if there's anything that you feel is a little glossed over, I recommend going back and watching that one first to get a handle on the app in general. But for today, let's dive into Keeper and exactly what they have in store for us when it comes to assisted multisig and inheritance planning. So really quick, let's just dive into the tiers that they have available. So the first video that I did was just simply the pleb free beginner setup, and you can create multi-key vaults. You can have hotkeys and cold keys and BIP85 and all of this different stuff that is great and inherent to the way that Keeper itself works. However, there are two other tiers that you can opt into if you see fit. Number one is called the HODLer. And so what this gives you is all the same features of the free version. It also gives you an assisted key on their signing server. So in a multi-sig setup, they'll have one key that will you'll be able to set parameters for and how it works and how it signs. Cloud storage of your backups. You can have the Canary wallet, which is a way of warning you if something's awry, if funds start to move, then you can know that a key has been compromised. You also get discount codes for hardware devices, and you get concierge in-app chat with human CSEs. The Diamond Hands, which again, HODLR being $10, Diamond Hands being $40. This gives you all of the previous, the aforementioned features. It also has, again, assisted key as an inheritance key. It has inheritance planning tools. And again, you can schedule calls now. Rather than just the chat, you get actual calls via the in-app chat for concierge, which is great. So the main step up from HODLR to Diamond Hands is moving from just an assist multisig with a signing server to assisted multisig, signing server, and inheritance planning built in. And so we're going to focus on the full Diamond Hands setup today so that we can kind of explore all of the features. But if you're looking at the HODLR, then just know that the inheritance stuff is the key feature that's going to be scaled back there. So let's dive into the app. Let's take a look at what we have in front of us. So we're going to start fresh with Keeper. This is a newly downloaded app, and that way you can kind of see through the whole setup, everything that we're going to do here. So the first thing you're going to do, of course, is you're going to create a passcode. I'll do something simple for this demo. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And we'll hit create. Now it says, of course, remember the passcode, and it's going to give us a 12-word recovery key. This is a seed phrase. This is very, very important that you keep this secure and safe and away from prying eyes. These 12 words are important. They are the keys to your money. Do not share them. Do not store them digitally. You're going to write these down very separately, not kept in a note or anything like that on an internet connected device physically, and keep them offline. So we're going to continue here. It does ask if you want to share analytics. I'm going to say don't share, but that's entirely up to you. It's going to walk us through a little bit here. Again, you can create single or multi-key wallets using various signing devices like the one we're going to use today with the Tapsigner and various others. We'll swipe to the side to move on. Again, no account creation is needed here. Use your own node. You can connect via Tor. You can manage your own UTXOs. There's tons of awesome features here, which I've covered in previous videos. But again, all around, you can do this as self-sovereignly as you please. And then, of course, what we're going to be doing today, upgrading to Diamond Hands or to the HODLR as the in-between option so that you can do your inheritance planning and assisted multisig. And so we're going to go ahead. We're going to hit start the app. And here we are. So on the main screen, when you first hit here, welcome to Bitcoin Keeper. There's a fresh app or recover an existing one. We're going to start new today. But if you were recovering, you'd use your 12 words on this intro screen. We're going to see those 12 words momentarily. So I'll hit start new. And it's going to start up my app and set it all up for me. Okay, so we can hit next here. And everything is all set up for us, but we have an information, a little widget that pops up that says, hey, back up the recovery key to secure the app. So we're going to hit the backup button. This is something you should do right out the gate. We're going to enter a passcode here and hit proceed. Okay, we're going to carefully write down our 12-word recovery key in a private place. And again, anyone with the recovery key will gain access to the ability to withdraw funds. So very important that we don't give this away. So we're going to back up now. And it's going to give us 12 words. In order to see one of the words, you tap on it and it reveals that word. I'm going to go through for each word. I'm going to write them all down, and then I'm going to hit next at the end of that to move on. Now it's just going to ask us a few skill testing questions, which I'll answer with my written seed words and hit confirm. And we'll jump to when I've done all of those little quizzes. And then it says backup successful. You will be reminded again in 180 days. I'm going to hit done. And we now have our recovery key. This recovery key can be used at any point to recover access to our account from any device. So it's very important that you keep those 12 words safe. And here we are. So we can do a health check. Again, it's just asking, it's going to ask one of the words in my seed phrase to confirm that I have it. I'm just going to hit skip for now. If you hit settings here, it just gives me options to manage my key or view the recovery words again if I happen to misplace them and I need to get access to them as well. It also gives us a fingerprint for the wallet down at the bottom. That can be useful, and we'll talk maybe a little bit about that later, but this is just an identifier so that you can see that perhaps a hardware device or something is linked appropriately to the wallet in question. But to get back out of here, we're going to hit the back button in the top left all the way back to our main screen. Now, it gives us a few options here. It says create your first vault, secure your sats with a vault. I can do that. But what I want to do first, because we're going to be using this in the context of the upgraded multisig, assisted multisig and inheritance vault, I'm going to hit the upgrade button at the top near where it says pleb. When I tap that, it gives me options for pleb, hodler, or diamond hands. And I can tap that and I can either go monthly or yearly. There's two tabs up there. Now, depending, of course, you do get around 3 months free. So you actually do get to do some testing here. If you want to test out and see how you like it, you can go ahead and do that. And there'll be links for that down below. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go with the diamond hands. This is, again, demo account. We'll take a look through everything. I'm going to hit continue. And it's going to give me payment options. Okay. And now I have successfully upgraded. I can hit OK. I can see that I'm on the diamond hands advanced. And I'll back out. And you can see that the name of the wallet in the top left has now changed. So we're now good to go. And we can continue with our setup. All right, so here we are with our Diamond Hands setup Keeper wallet. And I've also got 4 Tapsigners here ready to go that we're going to use with this setup. So we're going to go through, we're going to create our first vault that will have inheritance planning in mind. So we have a prompt up here that says create your first vault. I am going to continue with that. Alternatively, you could add a wallet and then create a vault that way as well. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hit continue up top, and it gives me some options here. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to, in this example, use a 2 of 3 vault. While in this setup, it says first we want to name it. Okay, I'm just going to call it test for this video. And then it says how many keys are for your vault configuration. Now I have 4 at my disposal, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a 3-key vault that requires 2 keys to open it. And I'll show you why momentarily, because just below, it gives me the option to add an inheritance key after adding the usual keys. So this is a new feature that is now baked in with Keeper in the setup of your vault. So an inheritance key, we'll see what this is, but for now, just know I have 4 Tapsigners in front of me. I'm going to end up using all of them. One of them I'll use in a special way, but the vault itself it requires 2 keys to unlock it. And it says there's a total threshold of 3. I'm going to tap the little check mark that says add inheritance key so that we can continue on from there. And I will hit proceed at the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my first key. Now, during our initial setup, we do have a mobile key. For this setup, I'm not going to use a mobile key as part of this vault. I would prefer to keep it as just hardware involved with this. So I'm going to start with one of these Tapsigners. And the first Tapsigner here is not initialized. So it's brand new, never been used because I want to show that flow. And then the rest of these have previously been set up. So there's not as the additional steps of the setup, but this should outline it pretty well for you. So I'll just get this out of the case here, set it down. On the screen here, I have add keys. Again, it will show any existing key. So you could add these keys first and then create a vault out of them. But we're going to do it through the flow of the initial setup from scratch. I'm going to hit add a key. And then I'm going to add a key from hardware. So I'll tap here. It gives me plenty of options here. At the time of recording this video, this will be supported through the Tapsigner. So it's important that if you're doing this immediately after it was published, you're probably going to want to defer to this. However, you will have support for this stuff through many other devices that support Miniscript in the future, just not quite yet. So you can kind of check with the Keeper website and with the latest documentation to kind of see which devices are going to work with this specific type of setup. Tapsigner, you will be golden. Okay, so I'm going to look for the Tapsigner if it's right down here. So I'm going to hit Tapsigner, and it says, okay, get your Tapsigner ready before proceeding. You will need the pin given at the back of the Tapsigner. So that's good. Again, this is not initialized yet. The way it works is on the back of this device, there's a starting pin, and then you reset it during setup. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to hit proceed. And then it says, okay, enter the pin that is printed on the back. So I'll double check this one. The pin is 759814. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tap, and I'm typing that in, 759814. Just double check that. Okay, good. And then I will hit proceed. Now says, okay, you're going to hold your Tapsigner to your phone. I'm on Android. The NFC chip is in and around here. On an iPhone, it will be closer to the top, just so you know. So I hold it in place. All right. Key added successfully. Okay, so I've got a Tapsigner there. It's now loaded in. I'm just going to put this one here so I know it's the first one. Okay. And I want this as part of the quorum. So there's Tapsign number one. What I will do is we'll go back out and we will adjust, change the pin on this after the fact. Whereas these other Tapsigners, I've already set up a demo pin on them. Okay, so we're going to go through the same process with these other Tapsigners. What I'm going to be doing is putting in the pin and then tapping them to the back of the phone. So same thing, add a key, hardware, Tapsigner, and then proceed. I'll put in my pin. Again, for this one, not very complicated. It's a demo device after all. And proceed, and then tap. Okay. I got a little confused with what add description meant here. I'm not going to add a description. We'll do that afterwards, and I'll just X out of that. Okay, and we'll check because we want that Tapsigner as part of the setup. And then I'll do one more device here. Same process. Add a key, hardware, Tapsigner, proceed. Do the pin and proceed at the bottom, and we're going to hold it to the back. Boom. We're now done. I'm going to X out of that. There's our third key. Perfect. So check, check, check. As I said, with the unsetup Tapsigner, it initialized it and it used the existing pin on the back, but we're going to go in and change that afterwards. I'll show you how to do that. These ones were previously set up and already had pins. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to hit proceed. Now it says add an inheritance key. Set an inheritance key for your vault. And then the key will be available after a time delay of 1 year. You can change that. The default is 1 year, and that's the minimum as well. You can set 1.5 or 2 years, and then you can bump it forward in time at any point that you like. Okay, so I'm going to leave it as 1 year. I'm going to hit add inheritance key. And then I'm going to, one moment. And actually, this is the convenient part. Kind of cool. I believe it'll let me add a mobile key as well. Now, don't quote me on that. Don't have to double check, but I'm going to be using a Tapsigner for this one. It looks different than the other ones. That doesn't have to be the case, but I'm going to hit add a key. I'm going to do the same thing from hardware. I'm going to choose Tapsigner. I'm going to proceed. I'll put in the pin. 4, 5, 6. Proceed. And I will tap it to the back here. Added successfully. I can X out of it. That's the key I want. And I'll confirm. Okay. So this says you have an inheritance key added. The Tapsigner was added today at 5:20. I can change the key later on if I want, as long as I have access to enough keys to approve that change. And so I can now just hit confirm. Vault created successfully. Your 2 of 3 vault has been created successfully. Please test the setup before putting in significant amounts. It says it has an inheritance key. It's 2 of 3. The vault is labeled test. And again, you should ensure you have a copy of wallet configuration file for this vault. I can say view vault, and it now takes me into my Keeper vault. Create multi-sig vaults of various configurations. Yep, that sounds good. Keeper supports all popular Bitcoin signers. Just some general information here. I can say okay. So I am now inside of my vault. There's a few additional things that I want to do before I move on into actually sending and receiving and using the vault itself, and how to handle this inheritance key as well. So we're going to tackle that momentarily. Let's dive into the additional steps you're going to want to do here. All right, so I've recentered us here back on our main screen as if we had closed down the app and then reopened it. And we're going to go through a few actions here with the Tapsigners, assuming that they are brand new and have not been previously backed up or anything like that. So brand new Tapsigner. Again, I mentioned before, we're going to want to change the pin on this, but we're also going to want to back up the card as well. Because right now, if we lose this card, we've just lost everything. We don't have any sort of backup. So let's go through that process. So here on the main screen, of course, we have the mobile wallet, the hot wallet for day-to-day use that it creates right away. And then we have beside it the vault that I labeled test that I can now tap into. So here, again, in this screen for this vault, we have everything that we would want to do and when it comes to sending and receiving transactions and all of that, but also the ability to manage the keys that govern this vault in the third option over here on the right. So I'm going to tap Manage Keys. I'm going to go to the first Tapsigner. That's the first one that I added here. I'm going to tap on it. And it gives us a history of everything that's been done. Now, I've been playing a little bit here behind the scenes. I did a health check, but I'm going to re-show how to do a health check, which means you're checking that this device is still functioning and able to sign and approve transactions. So in order to do that, I tap on health check down at the bottom. Then I'm going to hit proceed. I'm going to put in the PIN for the Tapsigner. Right now, it's still the default one, 759814. 759814. And I hit proceed. And now it's asking me to actually tap the card to the back. Takes a moment. And then it says verified successfully. So that key, obviously, since we just set it up, is functioning just fine. So what I want to do here is I want to now go into the settings at the bottom. There's a few things that we want to address. Now, it gives us lots of options. Manage the Tapsigner. It gives us key details, any additional info. We can sign in a transaction. We can create a canary wallet, which is like if anything, you can create a wallet where basically if anything moves out of that wallet, you know that particular key is compromised, and then you can take action to move your vault to a new set of keys. But we want to focus just on managing the Tapsigner up top. It gives us a few things we're going to do in order. We want the first two. We want to save a backup first, and then we're going to change the PIN. Reason for that order is if we change the PIN and we somehow mess that up, like we type in the wrong PIN and we're not paying attention, and for whatever reason, despite safeguards, we change the PIN to something we can't control. If we don't have a backup at that point, it means we have no recourse and the card is useless to us. So we want to back up the card first, and then we want to change the PIN. So I'm going to hit Save Backup. And then it says enter the PIN, again, the default one on the back. So once again, 759814. I'll enter that here. 759814. And I'll hit Save Backup down at the bottom. And then it wants me to scan the card because there's going to be an encrypted file created. And then it asks me where I would like to send it. Now you can do a whole bunch of different things with this. You can save it to the phone. You can send it in any sort of file transfer app that you like, or you can email it to yourself or put it in a cloud storage server, whatever it is. This file itself is not able to be cracked by somebody if they just come across it. Okay, so I wouldn't worry about that. You just need to get this file somewhere where you're going to be able to access it in the future. And then we'll talk about decrypting it later on. This is a file, it's an encrypted blob of data that represents your private key. So the simplest option would be to email it to yourself. So literally from myself to myself. And then I'll just say Keeper Tapsigner 1 test backup. Okay, so this file, I'm just going to send it off. And there we go. So that has now been sent off to myself. At this point, I now have the backup file that I want. If I hit Save Backup again, it asks me to scan and it'll do the exact same thing. So I can just back out here. So we're all good now. Now we can go ahead and we can change the PIN. So the next step that I want to do is I want to change the PIN itself. I'm going to hit Change PIN. It's going to ask again for the existing PIN on the back of the card, and then for our new PIN that we want twice to make sure we've typed it correctly. So again, I'll do 759814. And for this video, we'll change it to something very simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Of course, you can change it again at any point if you prefer, as long as you have the existing PIN that is currently assigned to the card. I'll hit continue at the bottom. And we're going to hit continue. And I can scan the card to make the changes. Tapsigner CVC change successfully. So the new PIN for this device is now the same as the others, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't recommend that PIN, of course, but just for an example for this video. So let's address the backup. How does that backup work? I said it's an encrypted file that gets sent to you. Well, the important part here is you have one more thing to do. On the back of the card, in multiple places, there is a backup password that I'm going to show here. So it's listed here in the middle, but it's also down the side here, down the side here, and at the bottom of the card here. It's multiple places, so if one of them rubs off and you're missing a digit, you still have multiple other places that you would have it. Now, you're not just going to rely on having this on the card. You need a separate copy of that, of course, because if you lose the card, then yeah, you have the backup file, but you don't have the password anymore. So you need to go through and make note of that backup password and store it securely and separately. If anything happens, you'll be able to recover this key with just the file and the password, and that's all you need. Okay? So the same would be true of all my other signers here. I'll go back all the way. The same would be true of each other Tapsigner. I would want to make sure that I have my own PIN that I've set after I've backed up the file for each one of these cards. So now that we've taken care of all of our keys, again, these other ones I've previously backed up, and the pins for them are already set up. So I don't need to worry about those. I already have those backups. I just wanted to show the new one. But here we go. Everything is set up with our keys. We're now good with that. And we can start to deal with our vault and our inheritance planning. Now, one other thing in regards to your individual keys here is the labeling, so that you can tell them apart. So if I go into one of the keys and then I go into the settings, there's additional info. So I can tap here, and let's say I had them labeled, or maybe I even used a Sharpie on the back of them to label them 1, 2, 3. So I could just put a label here, just 1, and then the check mark, and then it saves that additional detail there to the key so that I can then tell which one is which if I go into the details. So you can see listed down below, and then I can just say, okay, grab number 1. This is what I'm signing with. So it just makes it a little bit easier when dealing with your individual keys. You can label them appropriately. And I'm going to go through and do 1, 2, 3, 4, just so we can tell them apart. Now, when it comes to the vault, there's one important piece of this puzzle, and it is called the configuration file. The way you can think of this is this. We have a vault that has 3 keys, technically with a 4th as the inheritance key. But nonetheless, we've created a digital vault. And that digital vault is just like anything, digital in the sense that it is located in no particular region. It is digitally located. And you can think of it like this. We have a digital vault. We have keys to unlock it. We require at least 2 of the keys to unlock this vault. And I want you to start thinking of it as a physical vault for a moment. We need to know where the vault is in order to be able to use the keys to unlock it. And the way that it works when you're setting up a multisig vault is a little bit of information from each key is used to generate a digital map to your vault. And so this map is in the form of a file, and the file resides right now on the Keeper app. But I would like to have a backup of the map to my vault. Why? Well, in the instance that I no longer have the map, aka I delete the app by accident, I would like to still be able to only have 2 of these keys so that I can unlock the vault. But if I don't know how to get there, the keys are useless to me. So we're basically hedging against us losing multiple things. If I lose the map and I lose one of the keys in its entirety, which again, we've backed up, so you can start to see how redundant everything is. If I only have 2 keys and I don't have the map, yes, I have enough to unlock the vault, but I don't know where the vault is. If I have all 3 keys, I can, because a little bit of information from every key was used to create the map, I can regenerate the map. But it's a good idea to just have a backup of your map or your configuration file. So we're going to do that now in Keeper. We're just going to send ourselves the config file. So we're in our vault. We're going to go to settings, the little settings wheel in the top right. We have a vault configuration file listed right there. We're going to tap on it, and it's presented to us as a QR code, as a string of text, something that could be tapped via NFC, or something we can export via file. The really cool thing about the vault configuration file being a QR is if you got a spare phone kicking around, you could download the Keeper app, you could scan this QR code and bring this configuration into another Keeper app. Or you can have a friend or family member, if you don't mind them seeing the contents of the vault, you can have them scan this information. There's no ability to spend just the map to the vault, meaning you can see the balance. So if you have a trusted friend or family member, they could scan this, they could have it on their phone just in case. I would just regularly check that they still have the app. Alternatively, and probably maybe a little bit better, is you just want the file of this somewhere that you can keep it. So once again, with the file export button here, it's going to give you options to send it to different people, to email it to yourself, to do whatever it is that you please, to upload it to the cloud, all of that kind of stuff. So once again, I won't go through the process here, but I could hit my email app. I could send it off to myself with a little label. And then if I need it in the future, I just search through my email for my Keeper Vault config file. And you just label the email so it's something easy to remember. But that's pretty much it. Back up your config file. That's important. And then you can back out here. Debify.com allows you to borrow against your Bitcoin in a non-custodial way. Collateral is held in a 3 of 4 distributed multisig with trusted parties. It provides institutional liquidity providers, loan periods of up to 5 years with flexible conditions and the best rates. And best of all, no rehypothecation of your funds. If you want to check them out today, head over to Debify.com or hit the link in the show notes down below. Speed is one of the fastest growing Bitcoin Lightning wallets out there. It is a fast and secure way to send and receive Bitcoin and stablecoin payments instantly. You can even swap between Bitcoin and stablecoins directly in the app. Also in the app, you can buy gift cards for all the best brands and earn rewards in the process. To download Speed, simply scan the QR code on the screen, click the links in the show notes down below, and use code BTC Sessions 10 to get 5,000 sats for free. All right, so now that we have the vault set up, I want to dive in first to transactionally, how things function, aka let's receive some funds and let's send some funds out. And then after that, we're going to tackle how you handle your inheritance key and how you handle making sure that the person, the recipient of the inheritance, has everything that they need in the future to be able to access and recover funds. We will dive into the inheritance planning section after, but let's learn how to use this transactionally first, okay? So let's go into our vault, and we're going to, at the bottom, hit receive. Here is a regular Bitcoin address that we would like to send to. Now off screen here, I have another wallet that I am going to send from to this wallet here. Of course, you may be on a Bitcoin exchange. You may be sending from a single signature hardware wallet. You may be doing a variety of things, but nonetheless, all you need is the ability to scan the QR code here from your existing Bitcoin wallet, or if you're coming off of an exchange, you're just going to use the copy button here. You're going to copy that string, your Bitcoin address, and then on your online exchange, you're going to say, hey, I want to withdraw to this Bitcoin address, and the funds will be sent here. So we're going to jump ahead to where I have received the funds into my vault. Now, as soon as that is initially sent over, I should see updated on the main screen here of my vault a transaction coming into the wallet. The way it is represented by default is in sats, the smallest denomination of a Bitcoin. I did not send myself 148,000 Bitcoin. Those are sats. So I think it's $150 or something like that at the time of recording this video. So I'm looking here. I can see the transaction listed below. I can see an updated balance. And then beside the incoming transaction, there's a little timer, or I guess an hourglass. And that just denotes that the transaction is not fully confirmed yet. On average, this takes about 10 minutes. And so when that's done, that will go away and I'll just see the funds as fully deposited. And then we will check out how to send out of the wallet using our existing signers. And I will note that whether this is before the inheritance triggers and I'm using some assortment of my existing keys, or it is after the inheritance triggers, meaning that the inheritance key is now valid. The same thing will be true. I will require 2 keys, or the recipient will require 2 keys to unlock the vault. But a year into the future, if I haven't changed it, this inheritance key will also be one of the valid keys that can be used. So we'll talk again about that assortment after, but let's just see what it's like using 2 keys to send out of the wallet next. All right, with some time passed and our transaction confirmed, everything ready to go, let's test it setting out of this vault into another wallet utilizing some of our Tapsigner keys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose send, and I could paste in a Bitcoin address here. Alternatively, there's a little square that I can use to scan. I'm going to do exactly that. I've got a second phone loaded up here with a QR code. So I'm going to hit the scan button. We'll allow, we'll scan that QR code. So we've now got our destination Bitcoin address. We can add a note for just, again, making notes of previous transactions is always good practice. So I'll just say Phoenix. It's going to Phoenix wallet. And the other option that it gives me is I can send it internally to one of my existing wallets. So if I tap here, I can see it gives me the option for my mobile wallet as well. But we'll just send it over to Phoenix there that I have. I'm going to hit proceed at this point. Now it says, how much do you want to send? And you can type in a specific amount of sats. You can switch to a US dollar amount. You can hit send max. And then you have your fee priorities here. So I'm going to hit send max. And then my fee priority, right now it's set to low. If I tap that, I get some options, and it kind of lets me know what the fee environment in Bitcoin is right now. I can select one of these, or I can do custom if I want to change how many sats per VByte. So you would just, the current fees are at 7. If I wanted to go a little bit above that just in case, then I could set it to, 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever I want. But I'll go back here and I'll just choose one of the options here. They're all basically the same right now. That's fine. I'll hit confirm. This again brings me back here. I'm sending this many sats to the address I designated before. And if I'm good to go, then I will hit send. At this point, it's going to give me a little bit of a rundown, everything that I'm doing. And I can say confirm and send. At this point, it's going to ask me for my passcode for the app itself. And then it's going to say, hey, you can sign with 2 of any of these 3 devices that you have. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go with the first one here. I'll proceed. And it says, we need your PIN. And when I hit sign, it asks me to tap the appropriate card. That then gives me a green check mark beside that device. I'm going to do the same thing with the next. Select the device I want, proceed, put in my PIN, hit the green sign button at the bottom, and tap to approve. I now have all of the signatures I need, and I can hit the green broadcast button in the bottom right. And there we go, send successful. And I can go back to view wallets. It will take me back and it will show me that I have now sent my transaction successfully out of the vault to the destination address. The same would apply if this key became active, which will not happen for a year, or if you've changed it to a year and a half or 2 years or whatever is designated. That would not be available as an option until that point, but after that point, it will be. So regardless of what assortment of keys, 2 signatures, and I can send. So now that we've done some transacting, let's take a look in the inheritance planning tab, or I guess section from our main screen, and see what is available in there. So by tapping on it, you're going to see a few different tabs. We're going to see key security, backup and recovery, and inheritance documents. So let's dive into what each one of those includes for you. So the first thing we see up top here is canary wallets. And so when we tap into that, it gives us a bit of an explanation. Each key used in a multi-key wallet can also be used as a single key wallet itself. Keeping funds in these wallets acts as a canary. So just to expand on that a little bit, you can use one of the Tapsigners in your multisig setup as just a single signer with a totally separate account by itself. There's nothing that will be compromising for the security of the multisig setup. It just works as its own single wallet simultaneously. No worries there. Now, why might you do that in this setup as a canary wallet? What does that mean? Let's go on. If someone gets access to one of the keys and finds funds in the single key wallet, they may try to withdraw those funds. This will be detected by the app, and the user will be advised to change that key from any multi-key setup. So it gives us now an option to manage keys and add a canary wallet. So let's just take a look at what that process would look like. And again, to reiterate what was said here is, I could take, for instance, one of my keys here, one of my Tapsigners, or in this instance, you would likely want to do it with all of your Tapsigners, and create a single key wallet with them, meaning one key to a vault that holds money, a single signature setup, and put little amounts of Bitcoin in each one. Maybe put in $100 in each one of those wallets. This app, Keeper, will alert you to those funds moving. You purposely put this decoy amount in these keys so that if somebody somehow obtains access to one of the keys in your multisig setup and you see those funds move out, you can go, oh geez, one of the keys in my multisig is compromised. It's time to no longer use that key. I'll use my other keys to move everything and swap out the key that has been compromised so that I know that all of the keys in this setup for my multisig are secure. So here it says manage keys, and I can add new. So what I would do is I'd look through here. I have my Tapsigners 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can go tap on Tapsigner 1, and it gives me, again, I can see all of the history of that. I can go into settings. I can see all of everything, including the signer being used in one wallet. But I would like to create a canary wallet. I can see that down at the bottom. So I'm going to click on that. And it creates a canary wallet out of this single Tapsigner. In this case, not the one that's sitting here. I know it's this one up here, Tapsigner number 1 that I previously used. And this now I can fund by receiving some funds into this Bitcoin address. And if I see anything move out of this, then I know there's trouble afoot, and it's time to replace the associated key with one that has not been compromised. So that is pretty much it. If I go back out to my main screen, let's go all the way back. Now, the canary wallet itself is not shown in the main screen. You don't want to advertise the fact that you've got a canary wallet. So if somebody's compromising keys, you'd rather know than not, okay? So you will only see the canary wallet from manage keys going into the particular key you're using, and it's hidden in the settings. My canary wallet right there, again, I can receive to it. It's specifically just meant to be used for the purpose of warning you if something bad has happened to your keys and somebody might have access. So again, hidden away here, not meant to be used day to day. You can always, from the main screen, you can always say add a wallet, single key wallet, cold wallet, give it a name. I'll just say Canary 1, and then select the appropriate signer. and proceed. This will then create a visible, usable wallet. So if you want to clear out the funds from it, you can do that later. However, if you are using Canary wallets, I would recommend just, again, funding them with a little bit, leaving them hidden in the background, and then not worrying about it. Just be cognizant that you can afterwards pull them and use them as single signers and send the funds out. Don't go, getting rid of keys that still have funds allocated to them. So there's your Canary wallet in order to, again, give you kind of like a warning if anything's going awry. Let's go back into inheritance planning and continue down the list. So next up, we see inheritance key. Now we've already dealt with that. We have an inheritance key. We can create vaults with an inheritance key. All of that is already set up in our previous vault. It's just another way to access that information. Down below, we have just some secure usage tips. Again, giving us tips regarding thorough verification of transaction details, making sure we're checking that we're sending to the right place. We have preliminary test transactions where they say it's a good idea to send a little bit at first and then the rest of your funds afterwards. Secure coordination among key holders. Again, encrypted communication for coordinating transaction approvals if you're doing it in a multi-party way. And then again, cross-device verification. You may want to use multiple devices in setting up transactions. It gives various tips for how you can do that. Moving down, we have key safekeeping tips. And again, it walks you through talking about multi-sig security, diversifying hardware wallet usage. Some people can perceive using the same type of wallet for all keys as a bit of a risk. So that is up to you to determine if adding complexity with multiple different types of hardware is worth the complexity trade-off and the single vendor risk. Continuing on from there, backups on paper and metal, acid-free paper, and then metal to make your backups of your seed phrases more resilient. And then again, varied and secure storage locations. You don't want to be leaving all of your multi-sig keys in a single location. That negates the point of the multi-sig. Moving on. We're now going to jump over next to backup and recovery. So for backup and recovery, you have your master recovery key. Now this is pertaining to something interesting that Keeper has as a feature and that I have used in another example video that I showed with Keeper creating multi-sig of your own vaults. This pertains to how your setup, all of your vaults, all of your transaction information, all of that can be backup in a way that all you need is a single seed phrase to recover all of that information. And the way that it works is all of the little details about transactions, labels that you've added, the names of your vaults, the multi-sig setups, minus key material. So no key material involved in this. All of that kind of extra information and data that can be useful that you may not want to necessarily lose, but isn't pertinent to you recovering funds, that can be backed up in a way to Keeper's servers in an encrypted blob of data that they can't access. All that they know is they've got a file with a bunch of stuff in it that they can't get into. And in order to access it, all you need to do is save your master recovery key, which is a 12-word seed phrase that actually pertains to the hot wallet that was created when this was set up automatically. And when you go to recover on any Keeper app, on any device, it will use something called the master fingerprint from your seed phrase to then look on Keeper's servers and say, hey, is there any additional data that we can upload to this person's phone that will help them with their labeling of all of their different keys and their vaults and transactions and all of that. And so if it does find something that corresponds with the master fingerprint of your seed phrase on the server. It will auto upload it, and then the key on this device will decrypt it so that all of your labels and everything are restored, even if you move phones. So it's super convenient. It would just require you for you to tap and back up that 12-word seed phrase, and you're good to go. You also can do personal cloud backups of the same information on any of your like iCloud or Google Drive. Further down the line, we have our wallet configuration file. We talked about this a little bit before, but again, you can tap here and you can download the config file. And this is your multi-sig setup. You can go and you can upload it to different wallets. You can share it to Keeper apps on different phones via QR code and scanning. We're going to address this and just take a look at what your vault might look like in a different interface after this. But there you go. That's where you find it. And then finally, backup and recovery tips. And when I click in here, again, comprehensive backup strategies. It talks about creating durable backups of all critical components, seed phrases, multi-key configurations on both physical, metal, and metal tools and digital, so encrypted file mediums. It also talks about conducting regular backup testing, making sure your keys are still functioning correctly, practicing recovery by deleting and restoring, and then keeping backup documentations updated. So whenever changes are made to your multi-key setup, promptly updating your backups and any associated documentation so that everything is making sense at all times. And that's it for backup and recovery. And finally, this last section here is actually useful. I've not seen this in a lot of other options out there, but inheritance documents. So this gives you a whole bunch of different templates that can be used for inheritance purposes that can be passed on to your heir. So just basic seed word templates that you can download and print. You can have trusted contacts. So this would be a list of trusted contacts that you can pass on to friends and family, or rather to your heirs so that they can reach out to friends and family that are trusted people to help them. Additional key details. This would be, I'll click into it so you can see, but this would be things like derivation paths and all of that kind of stuff. From there, we have recovery instructions. Again, you can create specific recovery instructions for the heir. This is, again, I'll show you. It's just some documentation that is useful for your heirs. General resources that they can use to help them through the setup. Down below that, again, useful, letter to an attorney. It's a pre-filled letter template, which you can then add to and then pass to an attorney to help with the transfer of funds to your family. And then finally, down below, we have inheritance tips. So document multi-key setup for your heirs, educate your heirs on Bitcoin and multi-key security, select knowledgeable executors and trustees. And then finally, regularly updated estate plans and instructions. So making sure that everything is constantly consistent with the current setup and not left to kind of be pertaining to previous and old setups that may no longer be the case. So again, just a general useful set of instructions and documents that can be used in your inheritance planning there. So let's go ahead, let's jump and check out that file, our config file, and how we can load this in to an alternative software so we can see what it looks like there. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's take our vault, our multisig vault, export the file, and then import it in a newly set up Keeper wallet on another phone. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm currently in the vault itself. So just to, again, reiterate, we're starting from the beginning here. Enter the vault. We're going to go up to the settings in the top right. We're going to go to vault configuration file. And then I'm actually going to go and I'm going to hit file export. I'm going to send it to myself through either email or a messenger file transfer app, whatever it is. And I'm going to grab it on my other phone. Now, I've already done this in the background, but you would just send it through whatever mechanism you choose. Now, on the other phone, I'm going to go ahead. I've already downloaded it on this phone. I opened the app, downloaded the file into my downloads. I'm going to hit Add Wallet. I'm going to choose Import, and then I'm going to say using a wallet configuration file. Now, of course, this allows me to use my camera, but I'm going to hit Upload a file. I'm going to choose the file that I've downloaded, and then I'm going to hit Proceed. And actually, I didn't even need to hit Proceed. It automatically loaded it for me. I can tap on the vault itself. It will check for any previous transactions, balances, and here we can see our history of funds coming in and out. And if there was a balance, we would see it here. Now, of course, this does not import key material. I would still be needing, my devices to access the funds in order to approve transactions, but I'd be able to see my balance here, add to it, and spend from it. So there we have it. The export and import into another Keeper app. Now, again, that information can be used in alternative interfaces. And I'm sure more will support it over time. But for the most part, all the information that's given to you here will allow you to access your funds in apps other than Keeper as well. I just wanted to show the quickest and easiest transfer just into another phone. Now, of course, any labels, you notice that I didn't have the labels for the vault itself and all that kind of stuff. If you want all of that stuff to actually come over, right now it just says imported vault and it doesn't have labels on the transactions. This is what I was talking about with the actual backup regarding your seed phrase and the uploaded information to the Keeper servers. That's the kind of stuff that would also be imported if when you loaded up a new version of Keeper, instead of starting from scratch, you said recover an existing wallet, that information would just already be there for you. So let's now discuss the actual inheritance planning portion of this. So as I said, we have a fourth key, and this key is inactive for whatever time period you set it for, but in our example, 1 full year until we can actually use it as a signer. And so what you would do is you would actually give this device to the recipient of the inheritance along with the PIN associated with it. You would have changed the PIN. You can even ask what PIN is easy for them to remember. They would keep this and the PIN somewhere safe. So that is one key that will trigger at a certain point in time, and they will then be able to use. But you then need them to have a couple of other things. We've just covered how to import a vault to another Keeper app. This would be important to do for them to have access, but you may also want that config file, perhaps on an SD card or something secure, just in case, with some basic instructions. And this is where their documentation that they provided can be useful, but you can put that on a little SD card to go along with their device. Now, finally, the other piece of the puzzle is when this inheritance key triggers and is usable, they're going to need one other key, and you have 3. Now, you have some options here with how this is handled. With any of this stuff being bestowed upon somebody, of course, if you trust the person to be careful with all of this, you can bestow that upon them prior to anything happening to you. But you can also, of course, as there's documentation for it, go to an executor and a trustee to be able to pass on that stuff to them when the time comes. And you need to give them access to 2 keys. Now, you only ever need 2 keys to sign. But of course, one of the 3 that you use is going to at least need to be passed on to the person as well with the pertinent information of what the PIN for that particular key is. So, some ways to think about this. All of this could be passed on at the same time. That's totally fine. Go through a lawyer, have it passed on. If you want the person to be, fully self-sovereign and not go through those means and just obtain it, there's some risks involved there. But of course, you can have them with the key that will not be active for a full year, along with one of the keys that is currently active. Of course, that leaves you with just 2 keys to access your funds for day to day. You would also have the person ready with the app already set up. Now, another way that I thought could be useful so that you retain a third key yourself is that the cold card queue is capable of, first of all, NFC, which is how you were using the Tapsigner with the device. And the cold card queue can be used to back up a Tapsigner. So you can add a Tapsigner internally into the cold card queue using something called the seed vault. And I've covered that in another video. So what that would look like is you do your whole setup and everything, and then you designate one of the other 3 keys that you mainly use outside of the inheritance key. So one of your main 3 keys, and you back it up to the cold card queue, put it into the seed vault. You keep the Tapsigner, and you give the queue to the person, the recipient of the inheritance. In that case, they now hold 2 keys, one of which is inactive for the next year and likely beyond that because you'll continue to bump it forward until you are no longer around to do so. And so at that point, yes, you can move on and they will gain access to the funds with the 2 keys that they have in time after your passing. So there's a variety of different ways that you can do that there. It does take some planning in advance. So I would look through some of the documentation that Keeper has. But again, the cool thing about this is the introduction of Miniscript with a key that is not currently active that will become active in the future. What you're likely to see also is support for more hardware that is capable of using these Miniscript features. Because right now, Tapsigner has support for it. Cold Card Queue is capable, but it's a new feature. So in the subsequent updates, it'll likely be added into Keeper as an option for this type of stuff. And then other signers are likely to adopt in the future. So this is kind of new, bleeding edge. And right now, it's just support for the Tapsigner in general in terms of this Multisig Miniscript vault that they have going. But you should see support popping up relatively quickly for other devices. So once again, recipient, they need to have the config file, either just as a file or added into a Keeper app or another external app. They're going to need the inheritance key, which will become active after your passing in a certain amount of time that you've allotted. And then another key to sign, one of your main 3 that will either be bestowed upon them or that will be duplicated in some way and given to them at the same time so that they have access to the appropriate mechanisms to be able to sign transactions. If you do have questions about that, of course, leave them in the comments down below or reach out to the Keeper team. There'll be a link down below where you can check out the website and use their contact form to submit inquiries as well. I know there's a lot to think about there, but it does give a pathway, especially with the legal documentation and stuff like that provided to bestow upon somebody their inheritance. Now, one final piece I want to touch on here is bumping forward your inheritance plan for another year, year and a half, 2 years, whatever your threshold you would like to have. So I'm here inside the vault. I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to go to resetting inheritance key. And then you can see it is Tapsigner number 4 that I've got right here. I'm going to select activation time, and I can see I've got 11 months left. Maybe I was down to 1 month left, whatever it is. And I want to bump it forward from now. I'm going to hit 1 year. I'm going to revault now down at the bottom. And there we go. So I've now bumped the activation of this card to be able to sign forward by a full year from today's date. So you can do that at any time. You don't have to wait until a certain threshold. Just whenever you're ready, whenever you see fit, you can go ahead and do that. I would just make sure that you set regular reminders so that doesn't lapse and it becomes active, before you mean it to. So, set a calendar notification once every, 10 months or 11 months and just go through, hit that button, move it forward. You're good to go. So just some final thoughts here regarding Keeper and inheritance planning and how they're beginning to bake this together. Of course, this is just Keeper's first entry into the realm of Miniscript. And Miniscript is very, very promising in terms of the granularity and the malleability that you have in how you configure multisig vaults. So what we saw here, where we have a single key that will be allowed to sign at a point in the future, is just one possible thing that you can incorporate into a multisig setup. And what I expect to see out of Keeper over time is more and more options and layouts and different configurations that people may set, and you may get very granular with that. But what I hope to see also is just some default setups that are, kind of tried and tested, and then the ability to adjust things as you see fit and kind of really configure it however you like. So I think that would be really cool. I also like, as I've said in the previous video, the idea that you can have all of your non-crucial data, so things like vault labels and transaction labels and key labels and all of that, stored on a cloud that is encrypted by a master seed phrase and designated and identified using a master fingerprint. And so while this sounds a little technical, again, all it means is you can have all of the nice labeling and everything that you've done by simply adding a seed phrase that doesn't even pertain to the multisig itself when you open up a separate Keeper app and reattain every bit of data that you've kept for yourself. In terms of guidance on the initial setup of all of this, in terms of the setup for the inheritance planning, I think the documentation section that was provided there is a definite nice to have. All of the things, even as simple as like seed phrase templates and trusted person contact templates, and then templates for letters for lawyers and everything for inheritance guidance and all of that. I would definitely advise taking advantage of that section as much as possible, printing things out, having it nice and orderly for a family member if this is how you're going to be going about your inheritance. Also, just keeping on top of keys, figuring out how the executor is going to get that material to the person, or if you've decided to have them look after it for the time being. It's going to depend very much situationally on the person that is receiving it and your trust in them to be able to keep those things safe versus that of a lawyer. So again, just keep that in mind as you're setting up. But I would love to hear any comments or questions that you have having looked at Keeper and their inheritance solution using multisig and Miniscript for the first time in the app. drop those comments and questions in the comments down below, and I'll be taking a peek at them as they come in. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please do like, subscribe, share. All those things help a ton getting this content in front of more eyeballs. If you want to help the show in another way, please do hit up the previously mentioned sponsors in the show notes down below. And finally, if you're perusing the channel, checking out the tutorials, but you find you need a little bit more one-on-one attention and help, reach out to my team at BitcoinMentor.io, where we have an incredible group of educators there waiting to help you through wallets, hardware, multisig, nodes, and anything else on your Bitcoin learning journey. Again, BitcoinMentor.io. You can check them out today. With that, I'm out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening, wherever you may be. See you guys next time for your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.